Hi everyone, welcome to Romance Stories. Before watching the video, please give me a like and subscribe. Thank you very much. The first time I approached Yvonne, she captured me, tied me up in a burlap sack, and hauled me home. When she was bored, she treated me like a toy. When she was tired, she used me as her pillow. And when she was hungry, she insisted on eating nothing but my noodles. It wasn't until a vivid dream that I realized the truth. Yvonne was destined to fall for the male lead and grow to loathe me. So I struck first. After she was drugged, I moved faster than a male lead could. Then, I put on a performance of tragic heartbreak and prepared to leave. Let's break up. I'll step aside for the two of you, I said. Yvonne was devastated, like a desperate kitten clawing at its own skin until it bled. 4 years later, hearing news that she was about to marry the male lead, I thought the chapter was closed, so I reappeared. But that very night, she imprisoned me. She slowly stripped off her clothes, begging with a stubborn, lowly desperation. Look at me. I've bathed for so many years. I'm not dirty anymore. I stood there, staring at the ambiguous marks of intimacy covering Yvonne's body, my eyes burning red. My own angry curses echoed in my ears as Yvonne tried to step forward to explain. I recoiled several steps, dodging her touch. Disappointment and rage were etched across my face. Yvonne, is this the business trip you told me about? It's not like that. You know, I only love you. Don't say another word. My heartbreak flared into fury. The marks all over your body. How do you plan to justify those? I'm begging you. Please believe me. This has to be a misunderstanding. Yvonne lowered her head, looking at the marks on her skin. Her eyes were rimmed with red, on the verge of tears. She wanted to explain, but the words wouldn't come. She could only look at me with pleading eyes. But I remained resolute. We're over. I'm letting the two of you be together. Yvonne stumbled as if she couldn't keep her footing. Her gaze shattered. Break up? It hurts so much. Yes, we're done. I turned and walked away in humiliation. My best friend immediately chased after me, her consoling words filling my ears. Soma, out with the old, in with the new. It's not worth breaking your heart over a girl like that. This Yvonne is truly a piece of work. I used to envy the two of you for being childhood sweethearts. You've doted on her since you were kids. You always said your bond was deep and devoted. Unlike other women, she seemed different. Turns out, it was all a lie. My heart throbbed with a pain so sharp I could barely remain standing. It's not her fault. You don't understand, I continued. I'm just sad that we couldn't make it to the end. My best friend patted my shoulder out of pity. Soma, no matter how much you like her, you can't go back. She's done it once. She'll do it again. He thought my grief stemmed from Yvonne's betrayal. But the real reason I was devastated was that I had to let her go entirely. Yvonne hadn't cheated, and she didn't love anyone else. She had done nothing wrong. 3 months ago, I accidentally bumped into a young man. That night, I had a dream. From that dream, I realized the world I lived in was actually a book. The female lead was Yvonne, but the male lead wasn't me. I, Soma, was merely the cannon fodder second male lead. The true male lead was the guy I had bumped into 3 days prior, Xavier. According to the plot, once Yvonne met him, she would realize that our lifelong bond wasn't actually love. She would gradually fall for Xavier. And I, this cannon fodder character, driven by my possessiveness for Yvonne, would repeatedly hurt the male lead and exhaust the last shred of affection Yvonne had for me. My parents, too, would target and suppress the male lead on my behalf, eventually leading our entire family to ruin and bankruptcy. At first, I didn't believe it. But no matter where Yvonne and I went, Xavier's shadow was always there. We went shopping. He was handing out flyers on the street. We had dinner at a Western restaurant. He was the waiter. Even when I intentionally changed our university preferences to take Yvonne to a school in a neighboring province, Xavier appeared without fail, miraculously in the same major and the same class as Yvonne. Everything seemed predestined. In the days that followed, I saw him accidentally bump into Yvonne while walking countless times. He'd clip her car with his bicycle or get bullied right as Yvonne happened to be passing by. Even though Yvonne did nothing, and the bullies fled only because I was there, Xavier still treated her as his savior, gifting her hand-carved wooden trinkets. Yvonne's polite rejections weren't enough to make me feel safe. On the contrary, They only fueled my panic. Because in the book, that was exactly how she treated him at the start. Xavier was like a ticking time bomb, a constant reminder that my treasure was destined to be stolen. No matter how hard I tried to prevent their paths from crossing, they always met in ways that mirrored the fated attraction described in the book. It all started with a car accident. Even though the accident in the book wasn't severe, I was determined to prevent it from happening at all. So, on that fateful day, I did everything in my power to keep Yvonne from leaving the house. Yvonne didn't understand. She thought I was just being lazy and wanted to sleep in. She curled up in my arms and kissed me. "Honey, if we don't get up, we'll be late for class." I wrapped my arms around her waist, pinning her back down to the bed and pulling her close. "Sweetheart, you aren't going anywhere today. Just stay home with me." "Why are you being so bossy?" she teased, her eyes shimmering with mischief. "But what if I really want to go to school? Unless, of course, you can think of something much more interesting to keep me occupied at home." Her fingers slid playfully from the bridge of my nose down to my lips, her gaze heavy with suggestion. I knew exactly what she meant. I caught her finger and gave it a gentle bite. "Don't tease me, love." She let out a soft laugh, her hand sliding underneath my shirt. "And what if I do?" She tilted her head up to kiss me, but I blocked her with my hand. She pouted in disappointment, kissing the back of my hand instead, whining softly, "Please?" Her wandering hands made my blood race. I couldn't take it anymore. I pinned both her wrists above her head and kissed her deeply. We lost ourselves in each other for a long time. It wasn't until she was breathless and tearfully begging for mercy that I finally stopped. She listened to me, though. She stayed home all day. I genuinely thought I had changed the course of fate. But the very next day, as I was driving her to school, an out-of-control car veered toward us. That was when I realized nothing had changed. In fact, it was worse. To protect me, Yvonne had lunged in front of me at the most critical second, putting herself in the path of greatest danger. I only lost consciousness. I didn't have a single scratch on me. Yvonne, however, was covered in blood. When they pulled us out, I saw Xavier performing emergency first aid on her. In the dream, Yvonne wasn't supposed to be hurt this badly, just a minor concussion. My interference had caused this nightmare. In that moment, I knew everything I did was futile. The male and female leads were destined to meet and fall in love. Thanks to Xavier's skilled first aid, Yvonne was snatched from the brink of death. Her parents were overwhelmed with gratitude. After learning about his tragic background, they even considered adopting him. Xavier firmly refused. "Mr. Jiang, Yvonne saved me once before. Helping her was simply the right thing to do." Yvonne's mother was surprised. "So she saved you two? You two really are fated." That word, fated, sent a wave of despair and nausea through me. I looked at Xavier, and a dark, poisonous malice began to grow in my heart. I was the one who grew up with her. We were childhood sweethearts. Why did he, the male lead, get to waltz in and steal everything so easily? I finally understood why the me in the book turned into a monster. No one can remain sane while watching the treasure they've cherished in the palm of their hand be taken away. I was no exception. No one could watch their treasure be stolen without suffering. Yet, I refused to accept the tragic end written in that book. I didn't want to torment Xavier as my character had, causing Yvonne to loathe or even hate me. More than anything, I didn't want Yvonne to face death again because of me. So, I decided to let go. I wanted her to recover in peace. And during that time, I stayed by her side, cherishing our final moments together. The word breakup lingered on my tongue, postponed over and over. It wasn't until she recovered and had to leave for a business trip to Haicheng that the clock ran out. She begged me to go with her, but I refused. I thought she needed to get used to days without me. But the very night she left, the nightmare returned. In the dream, she was drugged, ending up in a passionate embrace with Xavier. Unable to control myself, I drove to Haicheng in the dead of night. When I found her, Xavier was supporting her, about to carry her into a room. Without a second thought, I knocked him unconscious. I intended to rush her to the hospital, but the image of her covered in blood flashed before my eyes, freezing me to the bone. I couldn't leave her to have her first time with Xavier, but I was terrified of the plot punishing her again. Finally, I decided to let myself go, just this once. I pinned Yvonne to the bed. She was semi-conscious, her face flushed deep red. To prevent her from recognizing me if she woke, I used a cravat to blindfold her. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it might burst. Before this, Yvonne had always been the one clinging to me, wanting to cross that final line, but I had always restrained myself because I cherished her. Now, I couldn't bear to see the woman I loved humiliated by another. I gently undressed her, my touch tracing her elegant collarbone down to her full curves. Her chest heaved violently. The drug in her system flared into an uncontrollable fire under my touch. She began to sob, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Honey, it hurts. I feel so strange." Hearing her voice made my heart ache with heat. But then the thought struck me. If Xavier had been the one to walk through that door, she would be drowning in desire just like this. The jealousy was unbearable. I bit her collarbone punitively. "Sweetheart, who am I?" "Hubby, it's you." She whimpered, pressing herself into my embrace. I could no longer hold back. I left a trail of bites and kisses across her neck and collarbone as she struggled impatiently against the restraints on her wrists. I had to accelerate my movements. As we became one, I couldn't hold back my tears. "Sweetheart, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I will always love you." I was heartless in my bullying of her, controlling every rise and fall of our passion. Yvonne cried out, calling my name with every breath, everything guided by pure instinct. When it was finally over, I kissed the tears from the corners of her eyes. Then, I turned to Xavier, who was still unconscious. I kicked him a few times out of sheer spite before dragging him back toward the bed. Feeling a surge of disgust, I changed my mind and shoved him back onto the floor. With everything finished, I prepared to leave. But at the hotel entrance, I ran into my best friend, the one who in the dream had witnessed their intimacy. "Soma, thank God you're here. I happened to see your Yvonne being taken away by some guy at a party today. It didn't feel right at the time, and the more I thought about it, the more worried I got. I tracked down where they went and rushed over. Did you come here looking for them too?" Under my friend's witness, I had officially become the victim. This worked in my favor. It was the perfect opportunity to demand a breakup. Yvonne would no longer cling to me. She would be forced to forget me. Leaving Haicheng, I returned home and locked myself in my room. The agony was real. Giving up someone you've loved for so long is never easy. The guilt was real, too. I had taken her first time under a veil of deception. My parents took turns trying to console me, but I ignored them. To the world, it appeared Yvonne had wronged me. Only I knew she was innocent. She called me over and over. I didn't answer. Eventually, she came to my house, begging for a meeting. I knew a sudden breakup wouldn't be easy for her to accept. But if I followed the book's path and slowly made her hate me, she would end up in a tragic state because of the male lead. Or, if the plot repeated itself, she would face danger again and again. I couldn't accept either outcome. For several days, she stood outside my door. My parents, knowing I didn't want to see her, refused to let her in. Then came a day of pouring rain. She stood there for hours, drenched to the bone, refusing to leave. My heart was in such agony that the glass I crushed in my hand didn't hurt nearly as much as the pain in my chest. My parents, having watched her grow up, finally softened and let her inside. From outside my bedroom door came the sound of her desperate pleading. "Honey, I was wrong. Please just talk to me. It's my fault. I shouldn't have been drinking. I shouldn't have gone back with Xavier. I've deleted every bit of his contact info. Can you just look at me for a second? Honey, I'm begging you." Her voice choked up. "Or is it because you think I'm dirty now, so you don't want to see me?" My heart twisted violently. I opened the door, tears streaming down my face. Yvonne was drenched, looking like a lost kitten caught in a storm. She reached out to hug me, but just as she was about to touch me, she pulled her hand back. I looked at her exposed skin. Her neck was abnormally red, as if it had been scrubbed raw. The spots where the bite marks had been were even chafed to the point of tearing. "Honey, can you give me just one more chance? Yvonne, stop being so stubborn. Even without me, you can learn to love someone else." "There will be no one else," she sobbed in denial. "What about Xavier, then? Do you dare tell me his presence hasn't affected you?" Yvonne didn't deny it immediately. I knew I had guessed right. I wiped the tears from her face, staring intensely into her eyes. "Yvonne, you aren't wrong. It's me. I'm the one who isn't good enough. Let's just end this peacefully. Honey, it's not like that." She shook her head, her eyes bloodshot, still trying to explain. "Yvonne, I'm begging you. Give us one last shred of dignity. Having said that, I shut the door. I couldn't bear to look at her devastated face for another second. I slumped against the door and slid to the floor, listening to her loud wailing outside. How can you be so heartless? I couldn't take the sound of her crying anymore. I sent a message to her parents, asking them to send someone to pick her up. After that, I submitted my application to study abroad. I didn't know when Yvonne finally left. When I regained consciousness, I was on a 4 drip. The doctor said it was due to excessive blood loss, and that it was lucky I was found in time. Seeing me awake, my mother was so heartbroken she couldn't stop wiping her tears. Son, why would you do something so foolish? Do you not want your parents anymore? Mom, I didn't mean for it to go that far. My heart just ached so much I wanted to shift the pain elsewhere. I didn't realize I cut my hand so deep with the glass. After comforting her, I brought up the plan to go abroad. My mother froze, wanting to say something but swallowing her words. My father patted her shoulder, telling her to go to the kitchen to see if there was anything for me to eat. Once everyone had left the room, my father sat down and looked at me, his expression solemn. What exactly happened to you? My hands gripped the blanket tightly, trying to find a way to brush it off. But then, my father handed me a manila folder. Inside was a complete record of my actions and hygiene. My heart hammered in terror, a cold sweat breaking out. If my father could investigate and find this, Yvonne naturally could too. It was only because she was currently so consumed with trying to win me back that she hadn't looked. There was simply no time to investigate. I stammered, Dad. But before I could even voice my request, my father had already anticipated my thoughts. I've already taken care of it for you. Yvonne won't be able to trace a thing. I breathed a sigh of relief, but then he added, but you have to tell me everything. You are my son. No matter how big the trouble is, I will be the one to back you up. My heart warmed, and my eyes welled with tears. In the book, my parents were exactly like this. They schemed in every possible way to suppress Xavier, only to meet a tragic end. I remained silent for a long time before finally telling him about the book. I left out only one detail, that I had died for Yvonne. My father frowned as he listened. I wasn't sure if he truly believed me, but he personally took charge of my study abroad application and accelerated the process. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, for years had passed. Yvonne and Xavier were about to get married. Even though I tried my best to avoid news about them, our social circles overlapped. It was impossible to dodge every update. The heavy stone that had been weighing on my heart finally dropped. Everything seemed settled. Without me, the cannon fodder, causing chaos, they had still found their way to each other, even if it took a little longer. I stepped out of the airport and was met by a woman dressed elegantly. Soma, welcome back home. She waved at me with a smile and handed me a bouquet of flowers. It took me a few seconds to process who she was. This was Layla, the marriage prospect my parents had introduced to me. Even for an arranged marriage, they wanted to ensure she suited my tastes, so they had sent me her contact information long ago. I smiled and accepted the flowers. Thank you. I like them very much. I'm glad you do. She smiled, standing by my side. I followed her as we turned a corner toward the elevator to the parking garage. However, the moment I turned around, I found myself face to face with Yvonne. I froze instantly, the blood in my veins feeling as if it had turned to ice. The Yvonne before me now was both familiar and strange. The girl who was once as sweet and soft as cotton candy was now wearing a sharp, crisp white dress, looking sophisticated and aloof. The gaze she fixed on me held no trace of the old affection or tenderness. It was as cold as a glacier. She walked toward me, her high heels clicking with every step, each one feeling like a heavy blow to my scarred heart. Her overwhelming aura made me involuntarily take half a step back. Yvonne, I'm here. Have I kept you waiting long? A deep male voice echoed behind her. I didn't need to guess. I knew it was Xavier. Yvonne came to a halt as Xavier, his hair slicked back in a professional style, reached her side and intimately wrapped an arm around her shoulder. I told you the driver could handle it, he said. Why did you cancel such an important meeting just to pick me up in person? It's not like I don't know the way. Though he was grumbling, his eyes were fixed on me, brimming with smug triumph. I gripped the bouquet of roses tightly, the thorns feeling as though they were piercing my palms. There was a time when Yvonne was exactly like that. No matter where I went or when I returned, she would be there to meet me, launching herself into my arms like a little firecracker. Now, that privilege was no longer mine. Even after 4 years, I couldn't completely let her go. I forced myself to look away, squeezing out a hollow smile for Layla. "Let's head out. My parents are waiting." Layla gave them a polite nod before preparing to leave with me. But Xavier, as if suddenly remembering something, called out to stop me. "Soma, I didn't expect you back in the country so soon. It's been so long I almost didn't recognize you. Is this your girlfriend? You two make quite the handsome couple." As he spoke, he held out 2 wedding invitations. "Yvonne and I are getting married soon. As an old classmate, you must do us the honor of attending." Struggling to maintain my composure, I acted as if I didn't care and accepted the invitations. "I'll be there." I gave a stiff smile and bid them goodbye. Throughout the entire exchange, Yvonne didn't utter a single word, standing there like a ghost. It wasn't until Layla and I stepped into the elevator that I felt her gaze. It remained locked on me until the very second the doors hissed shut. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I instinctively retreated into the corner of the lift. "Soma, what's wrong?" Layla asked. I shook my head, but a lingering sense of unease gnawed at my soul. News of my return spread quickly through our circles. I couldn't avoid a reunion with our old group of friends. During the party, after catching up on everyone's lives, the gossip began. "Soma, be honest. Did you come back to crash the wedding? Just say the word, and we'll help you snatch Yvonne back." I waved them off repeatedly. "Don't start trouble. Yvonne and I are ancient history." My best friend sighed, shaking his head. "Back in the day, I would have sooner believed the earth would explode tomorrow than believe you two would break up. What actually happened? Why did she end up with Xavier? Was there a misunderstanding? Or did that pretty boy Xavier just steal your girl?" The questions came like rapid fire. They began reminiscing about how well I had treated her. Since kindergarten, we had been inseparable. I had spoiled her to the heavens since we were toddlers. While teachers encouraged other children to eat by themselves, with me around, that was a lost cause. Because I took care of everything for Yvonne, from feeding her and making her milk to coaxing her to sleep. Anytime she ran into trouble, all she had to do was call out, "Honey," and I would fix it for her. Back then, our parents used to tease her about it. They'd say that even as a toddler, she already knew how to find herself a house husband. What was the point of him treating her that well back then? My best friend interjected sarcastically. In the end, she was still lured away by some other guy's smooth talk. "Stop it," I interrupted him. I couldn't stand to stay there any longer, so I used the restroom as an excuse to leave. When I stepped out, I collided right into Yvonne. My heart raced. I hadn't expected her to be here. Flustered, I stepped back, intending to walk away. "Honey, we haven't seen each other in 4 years. Do you really not even want to look at me?" That familiar way she addressed me made my feet freeze. A wave of restless emotion surged in my chest. I turned to her and said, "Ms. Liu, you are about to be married. You should remain loyal to your fiancé. Addressing someone else like that is inappropriate." I turned to leave, but suddenly a pair of arms wrapped around my waist from behind. Simultaneously, a handkerchief was pressed firmly over my nose and mouth. When I regained consciousness, I was tied to a bed. The room was completely sealed off, except for a single door. The walls were a blinding, clinical white. The door creaked open, and Yvonne walked in. The memory of what happened before I blacked out came rushing back. The suffocating atmosphere and Yvonne's clearly unstable state filled me with dread. "Yvonne, what are you doing?" "Honey, I just missed you so much." She looked at me with a mix of obsession and self-pity, slowly drawing closer. "Yvonne, stop this madness. Let me go. My parents will be worried if I go missing. Why don't you ever think about me? Why is your head always full of other people?" Her demeanor suddenly shifted to one of cold fury. She grabbed my tie and yanked it tight. "Why did you smile at that other woman? Why did you accept her roses? How could you ever want someone else to be your girlfriend? Honey, you can only love me." With that, she forced a kiss onto me, a kiss fueled by venting rage. She bit and gnawed at my lips and tongue until they were torn and bleeding. I wrenched my head away and roared at her. She locked eyes with me, then suddenly burst into tears before letting out a chilling laugh. "Honey, you actually dare to yell at me. You don't love me anymore, do you?" I couldn't bring myself to lie to her, so I avoided the subject. "Yvonne, do you really plan to keep me in prison for the rest of your life?" "Oh no, honey. Trust me." I didn't understand what she was ultimately trying to do. Fortunately, I knew she had been using my phone to deceive my parents, so at least they weren't worried about my whereabouts. I stopped being in such a rush to leave. Yvonne continued to treat me as well as she ever had. Aside from keeping me locked away, everything, from the food to the clothes, was tailored perfectly to my tastes. Once I expressed that I no longer wanted to be chained to the bed, she even allowed me to move freely throughout the villa. However, as the wedding date for her and Xavier drew closer, she still showed no intention of letting me go. I felt like a pretty boy kept as a pet, while she spent her days actively preparing for her marriage to Xavier. Consequently, her proximity only caused me more agony. One evening, when she tried to sleep by my bedside once again, I roared at her, "Yvonne, can you please stay away from me? It's disgusting. Do you know that?" Yvonne froze for a moment, then slowly began to undress. I jumped off the bed in a panic. "Yvonne, you're about to get married. What are you doing?" She acted as if she couldn't hear me, her hands never stopping. She slowly shed her clothes. I didn't dare look. I turned my face away and prepared to bolt from the room. But the door was code-locked, and I couldn't open it at all. Just as I thought she was trying to seduce me, she began to plead with a sickly, stubborn, and lowly desperation. "Honey, look at me. I've bathed for so many years. I'm not dirty anymore." My heart throbbed with pain. I wrapped a blanket around her. "Yvonne, I never thought you were dirty. You aren't dirty." She took the opportunity to embrace me. "Then, do you want me?" I pried her hands off. "Yvonne, you're getting married. Doing this is wrong." For some reason, my words provoked her. The woman who was just weeping and begging immediately shifted into a cold, fierce expression. Before I knew it, she had handcuffed my wrists together. "You still care, don't you? If you cared, you should have locked me up and punished me. You should have made it so I could only ever see you. But instead, you just wanted to throw me away. Do you even love me at all?" I was terrified by her pathological state. I had no doubt now that she was suffering a mental breakdown. When she began to forcefully strip my clothes, I became even more certain. "Honey, will you help me wash it away?" She threw the blanket aside and tore my clothes. Every place where someone else touched me. I remember them all. "Will you help me wash them clean?" "Yvonne, let go. Snap out of it." I tried with all my might to hold onto my clothes. But she was stubbornly convinced that because I wasn't angry and wasn't punishing her, it meant I didn't love her. I was both furious and frantic. "Enough. All of those marks. I was the one who did that to you in the first place." I expected her to be shocked or to demand to know why I did it. Instead, she shook her head, refusing to believe me. On the contrary, she began to claw at her own skin in self-loathing, obsessed with the idea that I must be the one to punish her. I didn't have time to ask why she didn't believe me. I pulled her into a tight embrace to stop her from hurting herself further. "You want me to punish you that badly? Then how could you lay a hand on yourself?" She dazed for a moment, then nodded. "You're right. It has to be your hand." The woman who was so forceful moments ago suddenly became as docile as a kitten in my arms. Her eyes were red as she pleaded, "Honey, lock me up. Imprison me. That way, I will belong only to you." For a moment, I was speechless. Seeing my silence, she began to cry again. "Honey, why won't you help me wash it away?" I cupped her face in my hands, soothing her gently. "Fine, I'll help you wash it away now. But shouldn't you unlock these handcuffs for me first?" She searched for the key and released my wrists, then lay obediently on the bed, waiting for me to act. I shook my head helplessly and picked her up. She looked at me suspiciously. "Honey, do you not like doing it on the bed?" "Yvonne, what on earth have you been watching?" She fell silent and said no more. I carried her into the bathroom and started the water. She reached out and pulled at me, wanted me to join her in the tub. I caught a glimpse of her seductive curves and quickly looked away. "Be good, or I'll get angry." Only then did she sit still and wait for me. I struggled to restrain my gaze, chanting mantras for a peaceful mind in my head. But Yvonne, reckless and unaware of the fire she was playing with, grabbed my hand and pulled it toward her most sensitive areas. I recoiled as if struck by an electric shock. "Don't play around. Wash that part yourself." At that, she began to cry again. "You still find me repulsive." "I don't. Heaven knows how much I wanted to ravage her, to bully her until she couldn't even find the strength to cry. In the end, I compromised. Throughout the entire process, I nearly bit through my own lip. After she was cleansed and carried back to bed, I retreated to the bathroom. I made sure not to let a single sound escape. Returning to the bed, I pulled her into my arms. That night, perhaps because my mind was weighed down by too many thoughts, I didn't fall into a deep sleep. So, when Yvonne crept out of the room in the middle of the night, I was fully aware and followed her stealthily. Her house actually had a basement. Unfortunately, the entrance was secure by code. As soon as Yvonne entered, the door locked automatically. I had no choice but to quietly return to the room and pretend to be asleep. About 2 hours later, she returned. In the darkness, she took my hand and kissed it. "Honey, it's almost over." I didn't understand what it was, but I knew it was connected to that basement. The next day, after Yvonne left, I made my way to the basement entrance. A 6-digit code. I tried her birthday, then mine. I even tried various anniversaries, but nothing worked. Finally, I entered the date we broke up, and the door clicked open. This basement was different from the one where she had imprisoned me. It was dark, gloomy, and felt like a man-eating beast. Venturing deeper, I saw a long chair equipped with restraints, electrical devices, and various medications. My heart filled with horror. I could recognize these as the tools used for treating mental illness. So, Yvonne really was mentally ill. I ransacked her belongings, but couldn't find any specific records regarding a diagnosis or the exact nature of her treatment. I was forced to put everything back exactly as I found it, planning to find an opportunity to confront her directly. The moment I stepped out of the basement, I ran straight into Xavier. My heart leaped into my throat. I hadn't expected him to show up at Yvonne's place. Xavier looked me up and down with a sneer. "Soma, you really are like a ghost that won't stop haunting us. As a supporting character, you should have some self-awareness. Otherwise, your ending will be quite tragic." Supporting character? Did Xavier know he was the male lead? "I have no idea what you're talking about," I replied, feigning innocence. Xavier laughed. "I don't understand why you went abroad back then, just when everything was becoming clear." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "Yvonne has mental issues. Did you know that?" My heart sank, and I locked eyes with him. "What exactly are you trying to say?" "I'm just advising you to never show your face in front of her again. If she loses her mind, it'll be entirely your fault." But I felt the opposite. If I left, that would be when she truly went insane. Xavier gave a cold huff. "I hope you'll still be smiling when Yvonne and I get married." After he essentially kicked me out of the room, I began plotting how to get the truth out of Yvonne. When she returned, I tried probing her indirectly, but I couldn't pry a single thing from her lips. Finally, I was forced to use my killing blow, alcohol. Her tolerance had always been low, and after that night years ago, she hadn't touched a drop. When I began feeding her wine mouth to mouth, she had no strength to resist. Her eyes lit up with a terrifying intensity, full of excitement and disbelief. "Honey, more." I handed her the glass to drink on her own. She boldly climbed onto my lap, rubbing her head against my shoulder. "I want you to feed me." I fed her quite a bit of wine after that, and my lips were kissed more than a few times in the process. Once her eyes grew hazy and glazed over, I asked her directly, "Yvonne, do you have a mental illness?" "No, why would I be sick?" "Then what are those things in the basement for?" At the mention of the basement, she suddenly pulled me into a tight embrace and sobbed uncontrollably. "I've wronged you. I'm dirty. Someone else is always appearing in my head. I can't control my own brain. I clearly don't like him, but my mind is full of memories of him, doing all sorts of intimate things. He's like a curse, always appearing in my life and in my thoughts, always telling me I love him. But I clearly only love you. But I can control it now." Every single cell in her body screamed that she hated him. Aside from me, if any other man touched her, she would vomit. From her answers, I finally understood. In Yvonne's mind, she possessed the memories of herself and Xavier from the original book. These memories influenced her deeply, creating a fracture in her reality. Her heart told her she didn't love Xavier, but her brain was etched with the conviction that she did. It was as if someone had forcibly stuffed the plot's emotions into her head. That was why, when I told her I was the one who had been with her that night, she refused to believe it. "Honey, I've truly erased him from my head now. Please, don't abandon me, okay?" I cupped her face and kissed her lips. "Sweetheart, from now on, I'll fight this alongside you." I used to think Yvonne had actually been moved by Xavier. Now I saw it was fundamentally the influence of the plot. My heart ached with a profound sorrow. I had left her to face all of this alone for 4 long years. On the wedding day, Yvonne woke me up early. Honey, I have to go marry someone else now. I pulled her into an embrace and kissed her deeply. Go then. Do you really not care about me at all? Her resentment nearly drowned me. Her phone rang incessantly, calls urging her to hurry to the venue. Annoyed by the noise, I sat up. Hurry to the wedding hall. Just follow the ceremony obediently. Don't do anything else. Yvonne stared at me, her eyes brimming with a sense of being wronged. I kissed her lips again. You are my treasure. I will never abandon you. Rest assured, I'm going to give you a surprise. Her eyes lit up, and she threw her arms around my neck, kissing me back. By noon, the wedding hall was packed with guests. Under the collective gaze of the crowd, Xavier appeared in a black tuxedo. Yvonne stood at her mark, but her eyes looked right through him. The moment I appeared, her icy gaze melted into a spring stream. I stepped onto the stage before everyone. I smiled and held out my hand toward Yvonne. Sweetheart, I'm here to crash the wedding. Do you want to come with me? Yvonne hiked up her wedding dress and ran toward me. I'm more than willing. The guests gasped in shock. Xavier's face turned hideous. He hissed at Yvonne. Yvonne, look at me. You love me. You want to marry me. Yvonne's face was filled with pure disgust. No, I don't love you. From beginning to end, I have only ever loved Soma. Our hands were locked tightly together. I looked at Xavier, and suddenly he spat out a mouthful of blood. He began talking to a void in midair. This situation was truly infuriating. After the wedding fell apart, the attitude of Yvonne's parents was baffling. It seemed even they found the whole situation hard to believe. They couldn't fathom why they had ever agreed to let Yvonne marry Xavier in the first place. Over the years, they had treated him like their own son, supporting his education and even bringing him into the family company. All of that was one thing, but they couldn't recall ever genuinely wanting the marriage, nor had they properly consulted Yvonne. According to her mother, it felt as though they had been living under a state of hypnosis. This was a wake-up call for me. Yvonne desperately needed to see a new psychiatrist. All these years, she had been caught in a violent compromise between reality and the book's plot. Aside from the unwavering truth that she loved me, everything else had become a blur of fact and fiction. To this day, she still didn't believe I was the one who had been with her that night. Fortunately, my father had preserved the evidence. I spread all the documents out in front of her. Explaining the past felt ridiculous, but I had to make her understand that she had never been dirty. Yvonne stared at the files, her face devoid of emotion. I'm sorry, I whispered, overcome with guilt. I was so stupid back then. It's okay, honey, she said, leaning obediently into my chest. But in the next second, a familiar handkerchief was pressed firmly over my nose and mouth. Honey, you made me suffer for so long. Now, I have to punish you. Before I blacked out, only 2 words flashed through my mind. I'm dead. When I regained consciousness, I was stripped bare and bound to the bed. My body felt uncomfortably hot. Yvonne, what did you do to me? Yvonne held a leather belt and flicked it against my chest with a sharp crack. Just gave you a little treat. It'll help you feel a bit better during the punishments to come. Knowing I was in the wrong, I didn't dare voice any dissatisfaction. Once my chest was whipped a bright, angry red, she moved the belt lower. Honey, it's being quite naughty. Terror gripped my heart. Sweetheart, I was wrong. I really was. Please don't. The belt came down again. Oh, look, honey, it's crying so piteously. Yvonne chuckled arrogantly. In a surge of desperation, I snapped the handcuffs. A second later, I pinned her beneath me. Sweetheart, now it's your turn to cry. After the wedding fiasco, I thought I'd never cross paths with Xavier again. To my surprise, he kidnapped me. Soma, why? Why does a supporting character like you get to be with the female lead? I am a chosen male lead. Why can't she love me? I gathered the truth from his disjointed, frantic ramblings. He had attempted to conquer Yvonne's heart twice. In the first timeline, he had usurped my current identity as her childhood sweetheart. Yet, even then, Yvonne didn't love him. Instead, she loved me, the pitiable man who was on the verge of death. In this life, he deliberately chose my previous identity, mimicking my every move to win her over. Unfortunately for him, Yvonne still didn't love him. Out of desperation, he used a system ability to hypnotize her. It was nothing short of cheating, but the cost of failure was death. At the wedding, Xavier hadn't hesitated to try hypnotizing her again. Little did he know, Yvonne had tormented herself so severely over the past 4 years that she had become immune. Her public confession to me was the ultimate rebuttal. Xavier's schemes across 2 lifetimes had come to nothing. And so, his life had reached its end. By the time Yvonne rushed to the scene, Xavier was holding a knife to my throat. Seeing her made him lose all remnants of control. Yvonne, you love me, don't you? Say you love me, and I'll let him go. Say it. Yvonne looked at me, her voice trembling slightly. I love Soma, honey. Xavier completely collapsed. Seizing the moment, I slammed my elbow into him, quickly putting distance between us. In the blink of an eye, he was pinned down and restrained. Yvonne threw her arms around me, her body shaking. The look she directed at Xavier was one of pure, murderous hatred. I held her tight, whispering comforts. Sweetheart, it's okay. It's all over now. She buried her head in my chest, clinging to me. After a long while, she looked up. Soma, I love you. I only love you. I kissed her forehead. I know. I love you too. Only you. 3 months later, I proposed to Yvonne. As it turned out, the wedding she had been preparing for so long wasn't meant for Xavier. She told me later that even if I hadn't come to crash the wedding, she would never have married him. Her original plan was to propose to me that very day, though she had mentally prepared herself for my rejection. Luckily, I had finally found my courage. When it came to the news of our marriage, my best friend nearly cursed me to death. He was terrified that I was blinded by love and throwing my happiness away. He went to great lengths to introduce me to several high-quality women and even try to coax Layla into pursuing me again. Yvonne was so livid her face turned black. That very same day, she dragged me to the registry to sign our marriage papers. Then, she shamelessly flaunted our marriage certificate all over social media, staking her claim for the world to see. Soma belongs to me, and I belong to Soma. My best friend was so frustrated his eyes turned red. In the end, I had no choice but to tell him the entire truth about what happened all those years ago. Ironically, hearing the truth only made him want to beat me up himself for being so foolish. Yvonne's reputation was finally cleared, though she earned herself a new nickname, the obsessive lover. Yet, I know the truth. It was thanks to that very obsessive love of hers that we made it. If it had been left to my personality alone, we never would have reached this beautiful conclusion. Full story complete.